Welcome to Sparking Success with Aaron Opalewski. Aaron brings you conversations that spark innovation, cultivate leadership skills, and pave the way for your business success. In each episode, we delve into the dynamic world of business and leadership, exploring strategies, insights, and success stories that fuel your professional journey.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sparking Success. I'm Aaron Opalewski, and today we're going to tell a story about my first real estate transaction. I felt like it was a good time to share the story. I know that when I started to research and look into commercial real estate or just being involved in real estate transactions, I spent a lot of time trying to find like tangible information. And, I'm a pretty action oriented person. This is an area that I probably dabbled in stuff for 7 or 8 years, 9 years even before it actually came to fruition. So I don't have all the answers and I'm still not an expert in this area by any means, but I thought it'd be kind of cool because I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people that were in a similar boat to me. They have an interest in it. They want to do it someday. And I figured I'd just share my story and that it might be cool to hear about. It might even help some people with their journey on trying to kind of dip their toe into the water and get involved in that, at some point. So here goes the story. As started to do well in the recruiting space, started to make money in the recruiting space. My perspectives changed on this a little bit too, but you hear like, oh, diversify your income and all that. And now my perspective is this. I think you should go all in on your initial craft and really get good at that and become an expert and generate a lot of income. Not over 1 year, but over multiple years, become really good at that, build something great, with that. Hopefully in my case, I would recommend you build a team, you build an actual company that's sustainable. And then, as you've done that, it does become a good idea to look at, where maybe you can, because you want to invest in your business, you want to grow the business, you want to keep it moving. Well, it gets to a point where it is a good idea to be creating some funds or um, some wealth, in some other areas. And so real estate is definitely a good one to do that in for multiple, reasons. It's stand the test of time. There's tax incentives, um, all different types of stuff. And again, I'm not the expert on that. I can just tell you, I definitely had that itch, but there's a little bit of perspective shift to me. I wouldn't go out, have one hot year, and then try and figure this out personally, because I think it would divert your attention from somewhere where you have momentum in a vehicle that you're building to go out and keep generating more. But as you put a team around that, as you've done that for a period of time, call it 5, 10 years, 10 years is I think a good timeline for that. Well, then, you may start to have some ability to look at you still growing your business, but you might still have some money, on the side that you could start to be putting into other investments. And again, this is not advice on specific what to do. It's just some thoughts on, my initial perspective. Oh, let's jump in and diversify. And I'm grateful that I waited and grew my acumen in my own business, and that we continued to grow, earn income, that way for a period of time before I actually put this into practice, because it probably would have distracted me if I did it earlier. So I think it was a blessing, and things happened, in the right time frame. But so let's get into it. So I think it was probably like 2016 when I really started to get interested in this. And I looked at it in years prior, but what did I see a lot? I watched videos, I read some books, I saw, some options to do some things. I dabbled in, I had a condo and I rented that out for a bit, and then that proved to be distracting. And I believe it was 2018 when I just sold that condo, and I knew for sure, like, hey, buying like a home here or there or a condo and renting it out and doing that all in the back end, it was just going to distract me from my day to day. Um, So I wanted to get involved in something bigger, whether it be commercial building or apartment complexes, or I always had the dream and vision that Spark and what has become our portfolio of companies would own our own building, and so that was a goal, an ambition. um, I won't call it an objective because I really didn't have a plan for it. I think to have an objective and like a true mission on something, you need to have a plan. But I was trying to put that together. And so as I reached out and tried to look into that more, a lot of the opportunities to get involved in real estate that came back to me were syndications or things where I actually didn't have direct control over the situation. And I really didn't want that. Not saying those are, wrong, but it's just not what I wanted to do within uh, investing in real estate. I wanted to be in actually involved in the project and have say in what was going to go on and own, the actual building or whatever it was going to be. Um, so I didn't want to do it on my own because I had no clue what I was doing. And I had read up on some stuff and, I had a very, very, very weak understanding. Um, but I've always learned from experience. It's not really an area that I wanted to make a ton of mistakes in. So we looked at shortly after I sold that condo, I think it was 2018, maybe even 2019. Spark looked at buying a building and it ultimately did not come to fruition. It wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right location. And I'm really grateful that it didn't come to fruition for those reasons because it would have been a mistake to buy that building. And I'm not sure how it would have worked out. I won't call it a waste of time though, because I did learn, a couple more things about the process. And, um, I think it's always good to try and learn from whatever experiences you have. So, um, life continued. 2020 comes up, and our lease situation even changed. We changed some stuff within our lease and kind of lowered our footprint within our office space. And next thing you know, we're into 2021, and we're seeing the need to expand that again. And I met with one of my mentors, and I'm like, hey, I've been trying to figure this out for 5, 6, 7. Like I've wanted to do this for a long time, but like there's just no opportunity, and or I don't see the opportunity to partner with anyone. They want me to be in a syndication or whatever, but they don't want me to be an actual partner in the building. And he had been buying some commercial real estate, and yeah, I would have loved to do that with him. And he just kind of listened, and he said, "Well, let's keep in touch on it." And I don't remember the exact timeline, but I want to say maybe like 4 or 5 months after that, he called me and he asked me, "Do you want to go look at some buildings?" And said, "Yeah, sure." So we did that, and we toured 4 or 5 different buildings in the Troy, Michigan area, and we were talking about, we started to talk about a plan on how we could potentially partner up and buy a building together. And that was a big interest to me because, like, hey, this is what I want to actually own a building. And we looked at 4 or 5, but he took me to one, and we actually are sitting in that one, right now as we film this. But he took me to one first that was right on, if you're familiar with the Troy, Michigan area, it's Big Beaver and Crooks. And we sit directly across from the Kelly Services World Headquarters. And all the way back to, I think, 2009, so that's 15 years ago, I used to drive past this exact area and look at Kelly's office and just kind of dream like, man, someday, we're going to have an office like that right here in Troy, Michigan. And, just drive past and just, think about that. And, um, you fast forward to that day, and I realized kind of like where we're at. And we walk this building, and it's an awesome building. It's 190,000 square feet. It's just in a great location. Hence me kind of doing that vision casting or whatever you want to call it all those years. Um, I was looking on the other side of the street, But then I realized, like, as I'm sitting there starting to kind of tour this building, I realized that like I've been visualizing having a building directly across the street every time I go past that street, which is thousands and thousands of times over the last 15 years. And we did go look at some other buildings that day, but I knew in my heart that's like, hey, let's try and go after this one. And it happened to be the biggest deal that we could go after, and was the most complex and required the most capital investment. Uh, but it felt like the one. And you fast forward, I think it took about 6 months of diligence and negotiations and jumping through red tape, providing information and everything like that. But you fast forward 6 months, and we were able to put together a deal, and we bought the building a couple days before Christmas at the end of 2021. And it was a unique situation, because part of the reason that people weren't open to partnering with me in real estate deals is because I didn't really have much to bring to the table. But back to my initial comment is get really good at what you do first. What ended up happening, like, yes, this is a mentor of mine. Yes, we're friends, but he's a business person, and there has to be a value add to a partnership. And the value that we were able to provide to the building, yes, we provided capital to do the deal, but my mentors could have done the deal with or without me on that capital. So we did provide that, but what we also provided was that we had a company that needed space, that's growing and was going to continue to need space. And we knew that we could look at this deal on paper without us being a tenant and make it work. And when you made us a tenant with the trajectory of being the biggest tenant in the building, it made the deal a slam dunk, even if things didn't go our way in the future on everything we could see. That made the deal tick. And so that is the value that we provided to the deal and what made it a good business partnership for them as well. And so we were able to put that together, and we bought the building. And, our plan was to hold this building, um, grow it, like I said, stay in this building for as long as we could see within the future. And, we are going to stay in the building for the foreseeable future. Like, we have a 7-year lease. Like, we're going to continue on with our plan to expand within this building, and we believe we probably will be the biggest tenant in the building. We may already be, but with our expansion plan, that will cement that home, and we're going to continue on with that. But we had an opportunity that came up at the end, towards the end of 2024, and we were able to partner, or my partners had done some deals with what has become the buyer of this building now in the past. And we received an offer, and it was a good offer. And, if I was the only equity partner, I'd probably have a harder time not just sticking with the initial plan. But the deal made a lot of sense. It was a good offer. Um, I think that the overall partnership group thought it was a good idea, and we knew the person buying it was going to be good to the tenants because they had done deals with them in the past, and we are going to be tenants in the building for the long term. And so, if we're going to sell the building, we wanted to sell it to someone that was going to be a good steward and be able to help take care of this place. We put a lot of time, uh, money, investment into making this a great place for tenants to be. And we wanted that to not only continue, but if we were going to sell, we wanted to find a situation where we felt like that was going to be done even at a higher level. And so the group that bought the building, or the company that bought the building, is able to do that. I talked to the maintenance people this morning before we're recording this, and I said, "Hey, you guys busy with projects yet?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, we got a good list of stuff that's going to be going on, that's going to be fixed, and it's probably stuff that we had on the table to be fixed. But within when you have a building, you're building up reserves to do some of those things, and we we were doing that, and there was a timeline to when things were going to be done. And in this case, now I think the gentleman that bought it is going to come in and just fix what needs to be fixed right now because he has the means to do so. And one that's awesome, for us as tenants and for the other tenants, it's a good lesson in life that there's always levels to stuff. And as you um, have more success and you're a good steward of that, you can be even better set up to service your customers. You can continue to increase your position to do things with more speed, which ultimately provides an even better service and a competitive advantage in the ability to capitalize on opportunities. So it was a good business deal because it mathematically made sense for us as partners. It was a great, business deal for the person that's buying it. And I think it's going to be great for us and the other tenants as we're going to continue to get the improvements that were being made. And they are now on probably an even faster timeline than we were able to put together as owners. So can't come up with a much better scenario than that. That deal became official earlier this week and has now, gone full cycle. So I'm extremely grateful to my partners that we put the deal together with. It was a successful deal. I have to imagine, I've learned a lot, from the transaction, even though I was only involved in so much. We all played a role and part in the partnership. Definitely learned a ton, and I'm grateful for just the learning aspect of it. And I know that in the future, even if it's a decade or 15 years, at some point down the road, one that group will probably work together again, and we'll buy more real estate together. But hey, if we decide as a portfolio of workforce solutions companies to buy a building, in a decade or 15 years or whatever it is, again, we're planning to be here for the long haul for 7 years and probably more than that if that's what makes sense because owning a building, a lot of work goes into it. And if we have a great ownership group, it might just make more sense for us to keep growing the business. But if the opportunity presents itself or when it does in the future, I'm more prepared. I have more acumen and more real life experience now on how to do that. And I have more of an infrastructure. We have a great property management company that's staying on with our building, a great real estate broker that's staying on with the building. And I didn't have those connections prior to doing this transaction. Now I do. And in business and in the world, you have to put good teams together. It's about having an acumen to do stuff, but also who to help pull it off. And so um, outside of mathematically it being a good deal and just like acquiring some knowledge, we've also acquired more infrastructure for if that is in God's plan at some point in the future. We're more in proximity and have more capacity to do that than ever before. And so I don't know how much that pertains to anyone listening, but again, I've had many conversations with friends, colleagues, acquaintances over the year about an interest in real estate. So I thought that would be cool to just share that story. It's a real story. It's fresh, as fresh as it can be, and that it just happened this week. And it was a fun ride, owning this building for 3 years. And I'm looking forward to the next seven and beyond, spending more time here, continuing to expand what we're doing at Spark Companies. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that. And I ask that you leave us a review and share this with one other person. Have a great day.